listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? A ZTO TV podcast.
So hello everybody and welcome to another episode of What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? And this is season 2 and we are having a series of guest co-hosts because Ray ran away. It was just too much for him to handle. He's just, he's not as funny as John Paul and I, so we have to find some replacements for him. So we hope he's enjoying his time alone with his thoughts. But this night's episode, we watched 3 movies. We watched Gaslight 1944, The House on Haunted Hill 1959, Vincent Price, there you go, and Invisible Man 2020, all with the theme of gaslighting. So there you go. Of course, we got John Paul and we got Rebecca Cunningham as our guest co-host. Sorry, I'm stuttering.
Hello, Rebecca, listeners. Hey.
Howdy, howdy.
So these were my picks, just to give some background, because I saw Gaslight when I was maybe 12 or 13. And I had a parent, well, actually I had a couple parents that always played that game. Like whenever they tried to have conversations with you to talk things out and you'd say something that happened and what the issue was, they would say, well, that never happened. You're just being dramatic. I don't know why you think that. You're being hysterical when, I'd be speaking calmly. And that kind of thing have kind of fucked me up for the rest of my life because I ran into relationships with it and everything else where you think that once you recognize it, that you're immune to it, but it's not true. What happens is you spend the rest of your life questioning your sanity. So I saw Gaslight when I was like 12 and I was like, fuck, that's what they were doing. Well, shit. And this was before they made it like a common term, like before you started hearing the term gaslighting. So I saw the movie, understood what was going on. And then about probably the 90s, they started throwing around the word gaslighting a lot about, the psychological damage and stuff that it does. But prior to that, I had never heard the term, but I saw the movie and saw what this guy was doing. So 1, it was a breakthrough for me. And 2, every time I watch it, I get infuriated and just odd and like what the hell all over again. So it was very impactful to me. Rebecca, John Paul?
I knew about the movie for some time, although this was the first time I've actually watched it. I had found out, I'd heard the term gaslighting. I'm not sure when. I know it was after I got divorced and I heard the description and I'm like, oh my God. So that's what happened to me. Yeah, so much like yourself. And so I'm just going to go ahead and say that when I was watching this movie, I was yelling at the screen a great deal. There was a lot of, no, this is what he's doing to you, woman. So it's newer to me, but I had been familiar with it before.
So Jenny, like yourself, I think my dad was the master of gaslighting myself and my brothers and my mom. He kind of just masterfully did that to us growing up. And the first time I watched this movie, I think I was maybe 15 or 16. Like, we were at somebody's house for Halloween and their parents go, well, I understand you guys are going to watch Chainsaw Massacre and all these other like gory movies, but if you want to see something really scary, and they put this on, and like you, the light bulb just went. And that's also when I stopped trusting my father. Because I was like, that fucking asshole.
Well, and they did a really good job, honestly, with the movie because he displayed a lot, the bad guy displayed, a great deal of the narcissistic tendencies that go along with that. And you could see it starting even way in the beginning of the movie, like when he's basically love bombing her, this sudden, oh my God, I love you, I must have you, even though they've only been together like a week or 2 or however long.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was pressing for marriage right off the bat. That was a big sign. And how she's trying to get like some time to think about it and how he's not even giving her that time.
No space. He shows up at the train station.
Yeah, right, that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Yeah, and when he starts out, it's just romantic and lovey and it's slight, softly manipulative, like no time to herself, and my dream has always been a house in the square in London or whatever, and she's madly in love, will give him anything, and then it gets dark, like once he gets where he wants to go.
Yeah, it's the claws come out then. You're right.
And just excellent acting. I mean, Charles Boyer playing that role is just incredible. And like when you read about him, like apparently, I think it was his first child was like being born while he was like on set. Well, not so his wife was pregnant and she was due to go give birth shortly. They were up, and like he actually got called and ran off the set like during thing, and was like apparently a really nice guy, like not anything like the character he played at all. And so, but I have this hatred of that actor from this movie because he did this role so well that I'm like, if I ever saw that man.
That's how he's a good actor, playing the opposite of himself.
Hands down, all of the acting around was great in this movie. Not to mention, an 18-year-old Angela Lansbury.
Yes,
this was
I have that in my notes.
Which is
no, she was 17.
She turned 18 as it was filming. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's crazy because you look at her and you're like, I know that person. But then you just know her in your head as being this older woman.
Yeah.
And you know her as a young actress. And she's so phenomenal.
She plays a tart. It's hilarious.
It's so great.
It's like so counterintuitive to any other thing you've seen Angela Lansbury play.
It was like, because I rewatched it again. And I watched it with my wife, Kate. And we're both like, holy cow, Angela Lansbury, how are you playing this role? But then if you really look at her filmography, she always played like the bad person in her early career. She was also like always the tart, always the person that took somebody away from somebody. And you're like, not little Angela Lansbury.
But the films we're mostly familiar with, we don't see her that way. We saw her like Bedknobs and Broomsticks and, Murder, She Wrote. So like for us, this was a departure.
Beauty and the Beast, Mrs. Potts.
Yes. Yeah. But so the background I read is actually her mother, I believe, had been a well-known actress and she had not acted at all, was not into it. And I think the director went out and found her and thought that she would be good in that. Anybody's, please feel free to fact check. I'm kind of summing up something that I looked up a couple weeks ago. So.
My notes about that pretty much say, oh my God, Angela Lansbury is the maid.
Right.
Oh, and we also have 6 Degrees of Vincent Price with this one. The original Broadway stage play and source for the screenplay was Angel Street by Patrick Hamilton, which opened at the John Golden Theater on December 5th, 1941, and ran for 1,295 performances, which is a pretty impressive run. The original stage cast included Leo G. Carroll, Vincent Price, and Judith Allen. Yeah.
Nice.
That's interesting. That's cool stuff. But that's funny. So the original Gaslight was actually 1940 film, as you both ran across.
Yep.
And the reason why it survived, because the director of the 1944 version basically went on a kill the original movie Rampage, and he just had most of the copies destroyed. But a few were mislabeled as Angel Street, and they survived. So that's why you still have a copy of the original, which is also not bad either. I just think the 44 one is better. Ingrid Bergman, I mean, like she went and observed women in an asylum, and she basically put her characterizations that she had, like the little tics and stuff, based on one of the women she observed in the asylum, which, is a terrifying reality for women around that time.
I saw that one as well, that she had done some studies, some case studies of actual people with breakdowns.
Yeah, I mean, even up into the 70s, it was like something they did to women. If they just got troublesome, said too much, said the wrong thing, got in the way, were too bold, too bright, too anything, I mean, you get committed.
Well, it's like
you're in an asylum.
Yeah, in the movie, when he says, oh, you have an appointment with the doctor, I believe it requires 2. That line, I'm like, oh, motherfucker, I know what you're doing. You're planning on getting her committed. I mean, it was pretty much obvious from the start, though, that was his idea.
Did you love the ending, though? The end where they finally the reveal. Well, okay, first there's that moment when was it Joseph Cotton, I think, was playing the police detective. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
When
Joseph
he
Cotton.
when the lights dim and he's like, somebody else in the house, the lights just dim. She's like, you saw it too?
Yes.
Anybody who's had their mind fucked with, and then like that moment when somebody can confirm, no, this is actually happening, the
Mhm.
relief you feel that you're not losing your shit completely
Yeah.
is just, I mean, it was perfectly expressed in Ingrid Bergman's face. She was just like, you saw it, it's real. I'm not
Yeah.
really going crazy.
Because she no longer trusted her own perception. She had
he
to have
fucked
it
him up.
independently confirmed
Yeah.
by someone supposedly neutral.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like, when I was going through that in my childhood, like anytime I could confer with my brother and we had, you know, I'm like, did that just happen? He's like, yeah, it did happen. I'm like, so she told us it didn't happen. It happened. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was like moments that kept me from being totally nuts, just because I had somebody else that was like, yeah, that actually happened. Our mom's an asshole.
Now
She's not always an asshole. She had other things going on in her life, but
yeah. Did you guys notice and it's very subtle, especially at the beginning of this movie, but I thought it was really interesting how the director, and I noticed this while I'm watching this, and Kate and I were like, holy crap, this is fucking crazy. They kind of make you believe good old Charlie Boyer in the sense that whenever she's shot, and they show her only, you know how they do camera angles, you know, normally you're used to women, they'll do soft light or whatever to kind of make them look more beautiful or whatever. And in these older films, in this, they would always light her dark. So the background and everything and around her face, it was a dark light. And I could see an outline of her face. So she's the bad person because you get the ominous darkness about her. And then when they would fight him, he's all bright. Even when she was practicing the piano at the beginning and the singing, they were always lighting her wrong. And I'm like, why are they doing that? And then I kind of dug into it, and that was on purpose. They wanted the audience to feel like, hey, she's wrong. Just so they would kind of red herring and throw you off and like, well, no, the guy's right in this case. The guy's perfectly right. What he's doing is true. And it's like, no, the director purposely did that just to mess with the audience. I thought, that's brilliant.
That's funny because it never had that effect on me. Like there was never a moment where I did not understand that she was the victim and this guy was fucking with her. And I always thought the shadows was more about how she was fading into nothingness, was my interpretation of it. That, she was becoming less and less and the light around him was brighter and brighter because he was more and more, because he's kind of a vampiric effect,
I was just going to say that he was the emotional vampire. He was like sucking away her energy.
That's awesome that we all saw a different take, but then like I said, I looked it up just because I thought it was really
all right, John Paul. So what? You're like officially right, but you okay?
No,
fine.
I'm not.
Do you feel better now?
I'm not. Hey, where's that brooch?
Hey now.
I just had it. No. So, but the ending is what I really, really loved. I really love the moment when she just starts fucking with him. Like he's tied. He gets caught. He's tied in a chair. Yeah. He's like, give me a moment alone with my wife. And, he thinks that he has enough control over her at this point still that he can get her to let him free after all this shit that he's done. And she just turns it back on him. She's like, oh, yeah, let me help you. There's a knife in here. Oh, this isn't a knife. I'm insane. I can't help you. And just fucks him up.
Yeah, there was also a really good moment where the housekeeper, when she comes in, I forget, when the bad guy,
the one that isn't Nancy.
Yes, she comes in and Ingrid Bergman's Paula turns to her, and mentions, I think, Joseph Cotton's character Brian, and she's like, well, nobody came to the house, the housekeeper, and she was perfect and dead on. And I think in a way you're even that was almost a gaslighting the audience, the viewer, with that one. Yeah. Just jump.
I mean, you kind of understood that she was trying to, protect.
Yeah, she was.
Bergman, but you also were like, wait, what? At the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. John Paul, I also want to piggyback on your comments about the director's use of lighting. He also would crowd the set. Basically, you see basically more and more stuff, in the rooms in the house. and that was purposely to make it feel claustrophobic, sort of a visual sign of Paula's descent into madness, as you were entrapped.
So though I know we could spend probably the whole show
Oh God,
talking about
yes.
it. But
let me quickly pose one question to you guys.
Okay.
So if this movie was to be remade, and I'm talking Gaslight, I know we're going to talk about similar things later, but if Gaslight could be remade, do you think that they could make a remake with the role reversal? So a man getting gaslighted, or do you feel that it's just still we live in a world of because of power struggle?
I think they could do it, and actually that kind of segues over into the next movie, but I'll hold for but I still think in the end, like, they could do it, and it does happen to men, as you noted with your father and stuff, but I still think we're still living in a world where women are still more the victims of that kind of abuse and trauma. And
okay,
so I'm not saying that it can't be done or that it shouldn't be done, but I don't think it's as relevant as what happens to women.
I'm also going to speak up. Yeah, emotional abuse happens to anyone. So yeah, I mean, I think they could do a role reversal on that one. But yeah, it is often one of the first tools used against manipulating your partner with emotional abuse.
Do you have a again? I'll ask this other question just because I think I always have fun. Who would you recast? See,
oh Jesus, you had to ask this one.
Perfect for this.
I'm terrible at this, so I'm just gonna step back. I'm not real good at calling actors' names, and
yeah, I think I have two perfect actors for this, and it's not just because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I think Daisy Ridley and John Boyega would be great at this role.
That'd be interesting. So where Daisy Ridley is gaslighting John Boyega,
right?
That would be
a different thing for them to play, and they both could really. I think they could really pull it off.
Oh yeah, I mean they're good actors.
So. Is very underrated, and I think John Boyega as well could give you a different kind of take on the whole switcheroo, so to speak.
Well, on that too, you have a mitigated group. So you have, a black male who's, basically would be being gaslighted by a white female, which,
yeah,
would be more relevant to the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were going to do it, that would be a good way to do it, John Paul. So, but, so House on Haunted Hill, 1959.
Okay.
Starring Vincent Price. So you do have actually a bit of gaslighting happening here. And it actually, a lot of it is going against a guy. So Vincent Price's character, which is Frederick Lauren, his wife is the one that kind of fucks with him and gaslights him. And you'll see this a lot with William Castle films. Like you'll see it in The Tingler too, where you have this kind of abusive,
other
blonde, sexy, empowered woman who's a cheat, who, when she's confronted about her, goings on, will always be like, it's your jealousy. And that's a form of gaslighting. So no, I'm not cheating on you. It's your jealousy. Your jealousy is driving people away and making our marriage break, and you're possessive and controlling when she's out fucking other people.
Yeah, because it's playing with the person's perception. They probably will automatically question themselves. Well, am I just being jealous? Is it just my overactive imagination? Or maybe that's just my thoughts.
No, I mean, it's a tactic that's absolutely used. And and you see that used by cheaters a lot. Like if you've ever dated a cheater, they're like, no, you're just crazy. What's wrong with
like
you?
Narcissistic control, etc. I have a feeling the main actress, Carol Armour, who played the wife in this one, the evil wife, she had been estranged from her mother, who was a Mormon, and essentially said that all her mother was ever trying to do was control every factor of her life. She was estranged from her essentially at the end of her life. And so I have to wonder how that experience she had in the real world segued to how she played the character on screen.
It might have, because I mean, she came out, she was kind of badass. I'm gonna give it to her. Like she might have been the evil bad character, but man, she had presence, and she was just
oh my word,
in Vincent Price's face, like Yes, I poisoned you.
Yes. Yeah, she was there was no lack of confidence in that performance, in the character. And I adored that. I don't want to see somebody who's regretful of their evilness. I want to see them revel in it.
And she did.
She did, and it was lovely and gorgeous. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of manipulation going on, maybe in the characters and stuff. I mean, she manipulated the other like male character, or the like with the he's going to try to kill me, save me. She manipulated the other, the young girl to start basically gaslighting her into hysteria. And I use that because they would do stuff where she would see things and they would take it away. So when she tried to show evidence, so she's in a point where she's questioning her reality. She sees 3 heads in her makeup case. She brings people to go look at it. 3 heads, of course, are gone, but they were there. They went and cleaned them up,
Nora Manning's character in this movie is
annoying, by the way.
Oh my word. At some point you want her to die.
Sorry, John Paul, you were saying?
No, I really do enjoy this movie. But my biggest gripe of this movie is that character. Because she just screams and screams.
She's whiny about it.
Oh my word. I think yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's the downfall of this movie, I think. Because everything else plays perfectly great. Just the manipulation, the twists, the turns, everything. But as soon as she's on screen, you're like, she's going to scream right now in 5, 4, 3. There she is.
Well, and to be fair, though, so they have this kind of weak, young ingenue, who's being terrorized character. And then they have Carol Omhart playing, Annabelle Lauren, the wife of Vincent Price's character. And then they have, was it Julie Mitchum?
Yes.
Who plays Ruth Bridges,
Robert
who's this
Mitchum's
journalist.
Sister.
And both of these characters and these women come off as these very strong and very calm and collected and not going to scream. I mean, even when Ruth Bridges, Julie Mitchum, gets, blood dripping on her hands and is a little terrorized herself, she's still like a little shook, but she's not like, ah! So then you have this other girl running around screaming, and it makes her look so much worse because you have these strong female characters in there, one evil, one neutral, but and then there's this girl and you're like, please just
shut up. Yeah, well, it could have been an intentional contrast.
It might have been, but
Maybe.
Of course, none of the males responded to her that way.
Yeah.
You've got the one doctor who's saying she's hysterical. You've got, what was that guy's name? He's just so not important to me, even though.
The doctor character?
Well, not the doctor that was the test pilot. Wasn't that what the other guy was?
Lance was the character name. Of course. I don't remember the actor name. Yeah, I know.
Who's, trying to protect her, but also kind of like they're there. But none of them are really like offended by her. They expect a woman to act that way.
Yeah, well, it is. It's comment in, and the doctor offering the sedative. Okay, one, did doctors just run around with their bags and sedatives in the 50s? Because every time, you're always seeing this in the movies. And they're always, here, take a sedative. Here, take a sedative.
You just have to have one.
And so it falls on the, you're just hysterical here, let me mute your emotions for our comfort.
But of course the twist is that, was it Dr. David Trent? Yeah, that's his name.
Yes.
Alan Marshall, that's the actor for that one. He's in on it with Carol Omhart. They're planning on, the whole thing is to kill off Vincent Price's character, but they're trying to get this hysterical girl to do it, so their hands are clean, and it just looks like this girl couldn't handle a scary house and lost her shit and shot this guy. So the hope would be, too, that the worst thing that would happen to her, which actually is kind of bad in the 50s and the 60s, is to go into an asylum if anything happens.
Yes. Yeah. They were pretty scary places back then.
So, but it's a lot more fun of a movie than Gaslight or Invisible Man 2020.
Oh, it is. It was the light relief. I probably should have watched this one last to sort of clear my palette, as it were, because Vincent Price is so fun in this one. He's so delightfully menacing, like in the earlier part of the movie where he's trying to get the wife, oh no, this is your party and you are coming, that little, and she's like, for the last time, I'm not, and he grabs her hair and just pulls her head back, doesn't even like yank it back violently, just gradually kind of there, and it's for the and again, it's a perfect moment. I loved it.
Yeah, and also, to be fair, like, you can't pretend that the way that Vincent Price's character is portrayed isn't completely a good husband either. You know,
Oh,
like there's
no.
clearly some
Not at all.
co-abuse going on there
Yes.
for sure.
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
he hijacks her party for one, and it's no longer like her party. He's invited random ass people to make it. You know?
Well, and the implication that he offed his other wives.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely sort of a Gone Girl situation. Neither of these people are perfect. Neither, both of these people are somewhat contemptible.
But unlike Gone Girl, you kind of always like Vincent Price.
Yes. Yeah, I gave up on that book, by the way. I made it partway through and realized I hated everybody. And I'm like, why am I reading this?
I didn't try to read it. I watched the movie by accident, but
I'm so sorry.
I saw that movie 2 days before I was going to get married.
Oh, sweet Jesus, John Paul.
Kate read the book and said, "We need to go see this movie."
Now you know. All right, sidetrack.
Anyway,
Talk
back to
about
House on
Haunted
Haunted
Hill.
Hill. I was trying to find some trivia information about the graphic that they used for the exterior of the house in the
It's
film.
been a Frank Lloyd Wright's house, I
Okay.
believe.
Okay.
I had looked it up a while ago, but I don't remember all the details. But I think it's in California, maybe, and it's one
Probably.
of his designs. And I would love to see it one day. But and William
definitely.
Castle films, even though you know that he must have some issues with blonde women, it's still his movies are such a joy.
Well,
What
it's the
director-
1950s. Blonde bombshells in style.
Yeah.
Well, but they're always the bad ones. You know what I mean? Like the
True.
wife in Tingler's a blonde, the wife here is a blonde. Sorry, you were saying, John Paul?
I'd say most 50s directors, like, I mean, look at Hitchcock. He loved his blondes.
Yeah, but
I'm like,
True.
yeah, but there was variation. Like his blonde females were usually the heroines or the femme fatales or something. But in Tingler movies, in Castle's movies, the Tingler and the House on Haunted Hill, they're the evil, cheating wives that are.
Right.
So, but it makes me wonder. And you normally have a younger kind of brunette ingenue that's
Mhm.
maybe not as obnoxious as the one in House on Haunted Hill, but she's sweeter and innocent.
Yeah, it falls on that classic horror movie trope of character archetypes.
Slut stock.
Yeah, yes. You have the slut,
The
you have
the
the
horror
athlete, the virgin, the scholar, or the fool. No.
Yeah, which I still think. Why are you going to be mad at a girl who's giving some up? How else are you going to get some?
Exactly. Never made
But,
sense
yeah.
to me either.
Hey,
That's-
Angela Lansbury stayed alive in the last movie. Just saying.
That's true. And she was a tart. So,
Yep.
That's right.
so, which actually, this back on House on Haunted Hill, I actually found like the remake. I think that was 1999. I don't know. It was in the
99, yeah.
90s. It was. If it were a standalone, like I thought it was fine. It was good for a nice like jump scare, scary movie. And I like that they did a little ode to Vincent Price in there with the the main character, but it didn't have any of the.
Now, there was a remake of The Haunting of Hill House. I wasn't aware that there was a remake of House on Haunted Hill.
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm gonna have to look it up.
It just doesn't have the intrigue that this one
It-
does. It's just more out of scary.
It's straight up kind of, I would say, just gory type. Movie.
Oh,
And they even made a sequel to that one as well.
Yeah, I never watched
that's
that one.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's okay. But again, it's just a more of your typical slasher type horror than it is like this was.
Yeah.
And even this now watching it, I don't see it as a horror movie.
This one, no, this is more like a
No.
psychological.
I was just
Exactly.
gonna say that.
Exactly.
Whereas the remake is definitely just a horror movie. So this one, there's some stuff in there that implies there actually is some haunting going on in this house, but the end all be all of it, it's just actual live people trying to kill each other.
Come on. He's great with the maquette with the skulls.
The puppet skeleton.
I mean, I watched it again, because I used to watch this one a lot, and then I watched it again recently for this, and I forgot how much I enjoy that scene.
It's so
Like-
amazingly cheesy.
It's so campy.
It is, but it's just something about Vincent Price.
Because he's amazing.
Yeah. So, and his the way he carries himself in this movie is just so damn good.
Yes, I agree. It is Probably one of my top favorites of his movies. I think The Tingler is my next favorite of his. Just for the LSD trip on screen.
There's Theater of Blood too, though. I mean,
Yeah. Well, he himself has said in an interview that was his favorite because he got to murder the critics.
which is kind of perfect for him, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so here's in my opinion, of the three, the hardest movie, which was Invisible Man 2020, because they just ripped off the Band-Aid and went full out. Let's look at a full-fledged, controlled, abusive relationship from fucking hell. And let's do the ultimate gaslighting where you have a fucking invisible man still terrorizing you. And of course, nobody believes you.
Now, that one, it
was hard.
It was an extremely hard movie to watch. I'm still getting a little stomach turned up thinking about it. Because the tension, I mean, they came out of the gate swinging at you. And it's amazing how the use of empty space amps up the tension in this one.
Yeah.
Like where they'll take a shot and they'll film it like she's looking at the kitchen and you're just, because the movie is called The Invisible Man, so you're looking for changes in the set, some sign, and you don't see anything.
Because the beginning was really, really good. You weren't sure what the hell was going on. Like you didn't understand the context of it. You just have these two people in bed and all of a sudden the woman gets up and pulls some pills out from under the mattress and you're like, is this a hooker that just drugged him and is going to rob him? What is going on? And it's just, the reveal is slower and slower and slower, and you realize that this is her escape, and you're like,
"Yeah,
fuck."
I have to confess, I cheated. I looked it up on Wiki because I knew I wasn't going to be able to withstand it otherwise. But it was
smart.
still,
it's still into the theater.
oh, honey, I feel like I need to buy you a drink even now for that.
It was at Studio 35, so I did have drinks there. So
yes.
And popcorn with M&Ms. Otherwise, I might have just been like, I can't do anything.
Yeah, and I mean the use of the sound too in the beginning when she's escaping, was really good.
So few things that just drove me nuts. The sister. If your sister or your friend calls you and says, meet me in this abandoned road, basically at 2 a.m, when you get in the car, don't fucking go, we're not going anywhere until you explain to me. No, get the fuck out of there and then let her explain. Why are you waiting? There's clearly some serious shit going on. What is wrong with you?
Get out of my brain, Jenny. I have a note about that.
I mean, I was infuriating. John, did it even bug you? I mean, when you watch that scene, when you're like, what's wrong?
Yeah, because you're like, GTFO, woman, go.
And again, I know I'm watching this, and I know this is a horror movie, but damn, there are some scenes where I had to fucking yell at the screen because of seriously, you're just like, are you fucking nuts? What? I mean, the time she goes back a couple times, and you're like, why the fuck would you do that?
She's a crazy white girl in a horror film.
I mean, and that's the thing. And back to your point of sound design, Rebecca, in this movie, the sound design is not only one of the most greatest things this director did to just kind of amp the feeling, but it gets into the back of your neck and you just feel that and you think, somebody behind me or what? I mean, I rewatched this with the surround sound and it's still, you're just like, what the fuck is somebody doing?
This is a random pet peeve I had, but later on when she's in lockup and they sit her down and the, I guess, doctor says, did you know you were pregnant? That drove me nuts because that implied she was no longer. And then,
I didn't.
So it confused me. I'm like, is she or is she not? Because were would mean that somehow she was not anymore. Because if you are pregnant, did you know you are pregnant? Not were, past tense.
That's true. That's an interesting.
And it seems like a weird thing to catch up on, but I think that was my brain trying to
maybe
calm itself down that I fixated on that stupid thing. But I was like, can we use the present? Not confuse a woman who's being traumatized by this movie, please.
I wonder if it was intentional or just something that just the writers didn't even notice.
I don't know. Like I said, and it could have been that I fixated on it so much because of, the intensity of this movie. So, I mean, yeah, you have this woman, controlled abusive relationship. The guy is like a tech genius.
An evil Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And
definitely.
rich as hell. And I guess he decided she was the one because she didn't give a shit about his money, basically. And yeah, so she escaped. The thing with the dog, I know we all are dog people. So like, I was like, man, I think I would have had to find a way to get the dog out with me. Like,
that was tough. That was tough.
But,
you're like, that dog is just going to probably get abused as well. I mean, yeah.
But on the same thought, if you have no place to run, it's hard to find a shelter that will take you and the dog.
Yeah, most don't.
Though she was running to her sister, so she could have probably got that worked out. Yeah. But who knows? But yeah, I was like, could you launch him over the wall?
That ginormous wall. That wall was ginormous.
Like, there's got to be another way around this. Like, you planned all this out. You could have planned to take the dog with you. Come on. But here's another thing that bugged me. So when the reveal kind of happens, when she understands that this dude is actually stalking her invisibly, and she finds his hideaway in the attic, which I assume he wanted her to find, or he just completely
the
thought
phone
she was
had to be
stupid
left there on purpose.
But she has this phone that has pictures that are evidence. One, it's his phone. Two, it shows him making calls to the house. And three, it has somebody taking pictures of him and the daughter, or of her and the daughter sleeping in that bed. So it proves that somebody else was in that house and that she was not quite nuts. And my thought is fucking run to the cops with that.
Well, I mean, and she's got a cop in the house.
Well, he had left that was after the scene.
Well, I'm talking about when going to the cops. Hey, look, I have this.
Go to the station, call your friend back, go like, hey, look, I have evidence. I swear, come look. I'm at the station, But I mean, I guess it would be kind of hard to think sane when you.
Oh yeah.
But I was just like, man, there's your moment. But I guess that wouldn't make a very great movie.
No, it would be a little bit shorter then. You got to ramp up the tension some more still. Yeah, and it was done, masterfully well. Him cutting her off. The email to her sister. This hitting
the daughter,
girl.
So
So he's isolating her again.
No friends left. No one who's going to believe you.
Exactly.
It's terrifying because, man, I'll tell you, they can do it. Well, you don't think it could happen to you, but it can.
Oh, it does. It's because it's subtle and insidious, and you don't notice it until you're like, holy shit, it's too late.
Yeah, and it doesn't even take an invisible suit. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Good. I'm sorry, John Paul, you were going to jump in there?
No, I was saying this in those regards is much, much more terrifying than Gaslight. I mean,
oh yes,
I've watched this movie now, I think 4 times, and I watched it with my mother-in-law, and she had a really hard time because she was in an abusive relationship when she was really young. And I mean, midway through, she yelled at the screen, "This fucking asshole." And it wasn't anything pertaining that was happening in the movie. It just, everything from her past rose to the top, and she just let it out.
Good.
And do we need to stop it? And she was like, no. And then by the end, once everything was revealed, she goes, in a weird way, it was kind of therapeutic for me. Because
the ending's very cathartic.
Yeah. She said I was able to get out a lot of things that were in me that I didn't know that were still in me all these years. And I left it at that. I didn't ask for any follow-up and stuff, but I believe that this movie has done a lot for it and women and that have been in these kind of relationships, or men that have been in these kind of relationships. So I would still recommend this movie, but yes, I would put a giant
trigger warning on it. Have a friend with you. Yeah, definitely. Don't walk into this movie unprepared unless. Well, just don't walk into this movie unprepared. If you have dealt with anything remotely controlling or abusive, men, have a friend.
have somebody on speed dial if you can't have them there.
Yeah.
Right.
Take a break if you need to.
Right. That's
Just-
the nice thing, that you can watch
Yeah.
it now and can pause it and back away.
Walk
and then-
away.
I
Yeah.
probably should have taken a couple breaks when I was watching it.
Yeah. Now,
No.
so to lighten it a little bit, a couple of my pet peeves. Okay, he's covering suit. I mean, obviously he has to be able to breathe somehow. So I mean, it's obviously permeable to a degree. But there's a scene where Aldous Hodge's daughter maces him in the suit in the face. Not Aldous Hodge,
Yeah.
maces the Invisible Man. And the guy's like, "Ugh." I'm like, how did that even really?
Yeah,
You're
that should have still because
guess
it did
maybe a
seem
little bit.
permeable.
But
Because I got the feeling there that there were plenty of air gaps in the whole thing.
I mean, he had to be able to breathe and he had to be able to
Yeah.
see, but it just seems a little like. And my other pet peeve. Okay, so if you ever take any kind of self-defense class, which I recommend everybody do,
You're in my brain
really
again,
drove me
Jenny.
nuts is they acted like that invisibility alone made this guy super strong and like not able to be hit. If a person, even if you can't see them, has a hold of you, you have a point of reference.
Yes.
Use it and fucking fight back. Don't just lay there like I don't know where you are. Fucking kick, punch, scratch, scream, yell, hit. And there are some scenes where you see her finally get that. But even like Aldous Hodge, a 6-foot beautiful guy, and he's like just getting his ass kicked because he can't see somebody. He should have been able to take out the Invisible Man with a swing. I mean, I'm sorry.
I mean, get a baseball bat.
Like, he's got you here. He's somewhere up here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I had that same problem with the movie. I was like, at one point, it's early on when she knows she thinks somebody's standing on the sheet, and she's like,
I'll throw the sheet over.
I'm like, wouldn't you just hit out and lash out? Because if you think,
well, to be fair, I
there.
mean, so there's fight and there's fight and there's also freeze. There's
Freeze,
and
yes.
disassociate. So I'm pretty sure that's what she did, and I understand that tends to be my thing is freeze and disassociate. Hence why I take self-defense so that's not my go-to.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's really what happened. But I also feel like in that situation, your brain, it's probably going to be like, this is so unreal that you may not be afraid. You might just charge at it, be like, yeah, no, oh fuck.
Yeah, it's a really good point about the freeze response. That's true. And especially considering we don't know how long she was in that relationship, every emotional response was beaten out of her.
Quite possible.
Or what have you. Because they don't even specify what happened, which
They
I think is which is masterful, because you're left to your imagination then, and we all know.
She gives you just enough at one point. After he's dead, she sits them down and she gives like a kind of generic summary, but it's almost more horrible because of it,
It is. I agree. Sometimes it's not what you see, it's what you don't see, which is a perfect guideline for this movie. I didn't even intend that almost pun, as it were.
But I mean, finally, so maybe it was just me. The end though, where she actually slits his throat. Did you think that was kind of like a throwback to Gaslight, with where she has that knife and she's threatening him with it in the end?
Definitely.
I mean, except for Invisible Man, she actually uses it. But I was wondering if that was a, kind of like hand wave at Gaslight, where she's like, this knife, and this one, like,
whether or not it was intentional, it was a good touch.
And I mean, did you not, like, I applauded in the theater. There weren't too many people in there, but I was like, yes, bitch, slit that throat. Yes. And then
I pretty much just like sighed in relief.
I think he committed suicide. And then she steps away from the camera and is like,
yeah, that was lovely.
Just watches him bleed out.
Yep, because she knows, she's been in the house. She knows where every camera is.
And you were so happy she did it, especially because the whole time when she's like, I just need you to tell me the truth. And he's like, I am telling you the truth. And then he comes over to her and says, surprise, just like he did in the asylum when he was invisible. So that two things happen. She, he lets her know, one, I'm never going to admit it, but yeah, you're fucking right, but you can't prove
exactly.
it.
Yeah. It was a masterful line. I really enjoyed it. Because it's, like you said, it's an obvious, I'm not going to say this, but I'm going to say it. And right then and there, that's her answer. She
Yeah.
knows. I mean, she already
You
knew
can
what
see
she
the change
had
in her
to
face
do.
too when he does it.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of knew going into there what she might do.
Oh, I
But
think she
that
does.
crystallized it. That affirmed that there is no other option. Yeah, I agree. She may have.
I think she wanted the confession, but
Yeah.
I agree. She knew that it was unlikely, and she had backup plan. She
Yeah.
had plan B. She was like, okay, well, if I can't get you on tape admitting to you doing it, then I'm going to make sure you can't ever fucking come after me again,
Yeah.
or anybody else.
And that's how I interpreted it. I didn't think she wanted a confession. I think she knew this ends now. This is where no more. You're not going to do this to anybody else. You're not going to do this to me any longer. It's it. This is it. So that's my take on the way this ended.
I still think she wanted the confession because, if you've ever had
Yeah.
that kind of intense, I'm going to play with your mind kind of thing, you do want the admission that they have done that. You never get it.
You need it. Yeah. You're searching for the mythical closure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no closure. That's just not the way it happens.
Now, whether or not she meant him to kill her regardless of the confession, I can't really say. I mean, probably I would. I'm just going to, somebody with that kind of power, that kind of money who would wreak that kind of and killed my sister. Oh, that motherfucker was going to die one way or the other.
And what got me at the end, which actually made me a little bit mad, when the detective character, Alice Hodges' character, James, came in, and you see him almost afraid of her at the end. And that kind of made me so mad because I'm like, okay, so she reclaimed her power. She made herself safe, and you're mad, and you're uncomfortable with that. Of course, I suppose he did just know that she killed a friend of his, killed somebody. So maybe that's the uncomfortable part. But
yeah,
he had it coming. He had it coming.
I interpreted that he was stuck in a position that he wasn't. I mean, like, so he's a cop, and he basically knew that she had murdered him. Would be hard pressed to prove it. It's his friend. He knew this guy deserved to die,
Yeah.
But he's still a cop. So I kind of think I saw that look of like, you put me in this terrible fucking spot. If you knew you were gonna fucking murder him, why didn't you just fucking do it? Yeah. But why make me complicit? It's kind of what I interpreted. But to be fair, when she's, at that dinner at that restaurant with her sister, when she right before her sister gets her throat slit, where she points out that, her sister's so intimidating that she intimidates, 6-foot cops, including James, who is a 6-foot cop. So it might just be that character's just intimidated by empowered women in general.
Maybe so.
He should be.
Agree, definitely. John Paul, did you have something to say about the restaurant scene?
I mean, that was a tough scene.
Yeah.
It was a real tough scene because it almost comes out of nowhere. It does
come out of nowhere. You're not really expecting it. I mean,
you're not expecting what's going to happen, but it makes sense after you've watched everything and how important that scene really is.
It's such a blatant move, of sheer violence on screen that we haven't seen in the movie yet. So yeah, I think it is kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah. So, I mean, it still makes me kind of just flinch a little every time I see it, because I'm just like, I know it's coming, but you're like, damn, this is so fucked up. Because there's a couple scenes in this movie where you feel safe for just a little bit, and they do the right amount of, okay, you feel safe now. Okay, calm down. All right, now I'm going to punch you over the head or whatever. And they do it so well.
Well, you have to have some of those relaxation points, because if you just have the constant tension all the way through, it'll eventually kind of fade into a little bit of a, not background is the right word, but you accustom to it.
Right. And that's why, like I said, I do really enjoy this movie. It is a hard watch for a lot of, and I do, again, I recommend this movie to people. But yeah, there's that little hey, if you have anything outlined in your life, it may trigger.
Yeah, this is a
And-
content warning movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Every time I'm like, okay, just understand this is hard.
Yeah. And you warned me, Jenny. You told me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yes, you were right.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but
It's more of a, okay, arm yourself for uncomfortable things, to say
Yeah.
the least. Yeah.
know
that you're going to feel this way. I mean, like I told Jean Paul that after I'd finished it, I'm like, I feel nauseous
It's
from the movie.
impactful.
Yes, it is. I highly recommend it, but oh my gosh, be careful when you watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Be prepared. And I did not see that coming at all when I was watching the movie. Like, I was not expecting that. When I went to go see Invisible Man 2020, I was thinking, oh, cool, remake of a Universal Monster movie, And even though like I've seen some of the other remakes and I thought they sucked too, I was just like more prepared for it being a shitty remake than to be what it was.
Yes.
Which is one, not a shitty remake, and damn.
Yes, it was a hard hitter. I was impressed. I was very impressed.
I mean, well done, but oh God, so hard.
Yes, very much so.
All right, so let's on a happy note.
Okay.
Because we don't all want to be downers. So, Rebecca, it has been a very wonderful pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you. I would love to be back sometime.
And thank you to the audience for all of you who submitted that you wanted to join us. You guys can still do it because I think it's fun to have more guests. We're people.
Booked up to January, but we're going to keep going. So if you want to be a guest, reach out.
Comment below.
Jump on our page.
Yeah.
Email ZTV.
So,
all right.
Okay.
So if you really want horror, like psychological or otherwise, I recommend these 3 movies for Halloween season. If you want something more lighthearted, stick more to House on Haunted Hill. If you want more, oh Jesus, what the fuck?
Then
Gaslight and
Invisible
Man 2020. Well, other than that, happy Halloween, guys.
Great.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
This is John Paul.
I'm Jenny Morrow.
And I'm Rebecca.
And you've watched What the Fuck Did I Just Watch?
What the fuck did I just watch?
ZTO TV podcasts. Low quality, high content.